This is Rob Thompson, game playing you. Ahmad Elhawli. Is that it? Did I get it right?
Ahmad Elhawli. Yep.
I mean, I was way off. And I think he added, I think you're making fun of me now with that accent. So I think you just, you added that in there.
No, it's all right. You
All
said
right,
it right.
man. So thank you. So you are, and I mean, I want you to talk and tell your story. I want you to tell people your story. But the one thing that I picked up about you from the early on is that you're just a really passionate business guy. And what I mean by that, it's like there's people that are kind of fans of the industry or fans of sports, but it just seems like you're fans of entrepreneurship and building a business from the scratch and from the ground up. Is that kind of a correct assessment of you?
Yeah, I mean, I love what I do. It's definitely a passion. I love to help. I love to see things grow. I love to see things develop. I like to make a difference and actually be a part of something great. Everything I do is built on a cause. It's basically giving them or giving people the access to a network of people that I didn't have myself. So for me, it's about making other people's journeys easier, how I can help others. That's really my focus. So the further I get along on this journey, the more I can help people after.
So talk about talk about your current projects, and your current projects are rooted in helping others, right, in the sports industry and SportsFinda, Rosterfied. So talk about those two projects.
Yeah, so I'm part of two companies at the moment. At one, I'm a product owner, and at the other, I'm a founder. I'm the founder of SportsFinda, which is a marketplace built to basically enable college students to build their brand, make something out of themselves, and sell their merchandise, have their own merchandise, really be able to monetize on their brand. The other aspect of our business is making sporting equipment more accessible to the wider community. We all have sporting equipment. We all have it sitting down in our locker rooms, in our garages, in our dormitories. It's just sitting there most of the time. And there's other people in the country or in the world where they would die for your sporting equipment that you're not using. So what we're trying to establish is a platform that people sell their sporting equipment basically at a reasonable price, so it's affordable for others that can then purchase and participate in sport. Sport's the one platform that brings everybody together. Everybody gets along. Everybody loves sport, no matter your background. It just seems to make people forget everything when it comes to sport. It just unites everyone. So that's really what we're working on now currently. So that's SportsFinda. Rosterify is a workforce management company that basically helps nonprofits, larger events with their volunteer engagement and volunteer management. So basically, they enable your standard volunteer manager in organizations, which in charities, it's usually part-timers, usually older people, to have a more streamlined process to communicate with their volunteers, keep volunteers engaged, make the most of them, and keep them around, and really get the most out of them when they actually need them, events, functions, so on, so on, so on. So they're the two companies that I'm currently doing some work with, uh, and to be quite honest, the roles I've taken up in both has been product. I'm not an engineer. I wasn't very technical in my early days. It's all been just self-taught, really. It's been a journey where I've taken on projects that I was curious about, spent my own money, my own time, my own everything, and just learnt. Got developers from overseas, made mistakes, lost money, and the cycle goes on and on and on.
So talk about this. Obviously, let's take a step back for a second because, as the world is shrinking for us and as everybody's sitting at home, and our network is kind of growing because of LinkedIn and this platform right here where we're live throughout the world. My time is 8 something in the morning and you're about 9 o'clock at night on a Sunday. But so talk about, you're from Melbourne, right? That's where you're based right now, Melbourne,
Yeah.
Australia. So talk about, like, how did you get from college to where you are right now? Like, talk a little bit about, fill that hole in for us.
I've been traveling to the States multiple times a year since 2013. I've got family there in Boston, and I've been basically going up and down. My theory always was that the States was always ahead of us here in Australia. So um, I used to attend all the conferences, started with HubSpot's inbound. Then I went into e-tail and retail and sports tech, and the list just basically goes on and on and on. So really that's been how I really that was my first steps into the States. And then one day a friend of mine invited me to a college basketball game. It was UCLA. I can't remember the other team, and I just couldn't believe the detail and the size of the game at that level. And I was after the game, I was walking around and I see all these athletes and the size of the colleges, and I was just taken by it. And really, that's what really kickstarted everything. And then I started a podcast in 2016 where I interviewed people from Forbes, HubSpot, Coca-Cola, basically all the largest companies in the world. I just got through to them, but that was basically business because I wanted to build a network. And then from there, I have always been a big fan of sport. And then I said, you know what, I'm going to do the same in sport. And then we started reaching out to athletic directors at Penn State. We started reaching out to people at University of Texas and so many other colleges. And I went shopping. I got into college football deep, and I started looking for a pair of LSU football gloves. And good luck finding them, right? So we're looking from platform to platform to platform, and I realized that it's all over the place. Especially when it comes to football. The biggest sport in America doesn't have a dedicated platform. So basically, that's how it all started. That's what triggered me. Then we started asking questions, and then we launched a bit of an MVP. Within a couple of months, we had over 300 sellers, and they said, "Oh, okay." And then everyone's asking us about an app, and then we started the app, and yeah, it's just rolled on since then.
I mean, there's a lot in that, what you just said, that I want to kind of dissect a little bit, right?
Yeah.
So I want to talk about that SportsFinda and where you are with equipment, especially coming from, as an example, the LSU gloves, right? And kind of where the direction of the business is going with players being able to leverage their brand to monetize. But let's park that for a second. Let's go back to your podcast. Let's go back to how much of a difference, because everybody's trying to get into the podcast space right now, right? They're kind of figuring it out. What has that meant to you, growing your brand, number one, and then building your network globally? You said you got executives from Coca-Cola and HubSpot. So talk about that process and the value of creating a podcast in this environment.
So with me, it was always about building my network and not relying on nobody, just basically building my own network so I can reach out to people whenever I needed to, so I can leverage and introduce people to other people. That's really what I wanted to do, was to meet like-minded people, really. And like with my business podcast, the Business Wilderness, we got that to a level where that was ranking in the top 3 on iTunes, like ahead of some of the biggest names in the world. You're talking about, we were ahead of Gary Vaynerchuk and all the sorts. That was my business one. That was sort of the playground where we learn all the tricks of the trade. In my second podcast interview, I was interviewing Lauren Feldman. At the time, he was senior editor of Entrepreneurship at Forbes in New Jersey, overlooking the Hudson River. So that was my second interview, and then from that we did 100 episodes. Then I said, my life is sport. Let's move that across to sport. And now, I mean, we've had multiple NFL executives join us. We've had multiple startups. We've had high-profile individuals. To be quite honest with you, I've had that many people on there now. I can't remember all. We've done 80-plus episodes. What that's given me the ability to do is a few things. Number one now is I know and understand what most parts of the world are really focusing on just through my guests and the feedback and the questions I ask. I get insight into how these people think, these successful people, what they do, what their journeys look like, and you'll be very surprised. You'll be very surprised how similar their journeys are. And then number three, it's I'm able to do the thing that I love to do most, and that's give back to people. Give people a platform where they can listen to real stories, raw stories, real information. We don't have no advertising, nothing. It's just purely educational. And we get the questions we ask is to extract value out of the guests, to give people tips and advice and lessons so they can go ahead and basically use it.
So, what was that first time like? I mean, I started my podcast because I was trying to hack the system a little bit and get to a decision maker. At least that's what I tell people, but I really wanted to start a podcast. But that kicked me into gear to do it. And it's been 5 years now, 200 plus. And you're probably 201. I don't know. But, for those of you who haven't started a podcast, and Ahmad, you gave great examples. The fact that you even got into entrepreneurial, and you passed Gary Vee. I mean, that's an achievement of it itself. But what were the tips on how to get to these people? What did you use without even having any history? You're starting from scratch. Second one out of the gate, you're getting. What tips did you use, and how did you approach that with people?
Yeah, this is what I always tell everybody. The first thing you do when you start a podcast is you go in and you use Anchor, because as soon as you start, you can end up being on 9 different platforms, right? In terms of guests, don't go for the top straight away. Go for second, third tier executives in organizations, especially larger organizations that never really get the recognition or the spotlight. So they're the people who you go after. Not everybody's going to say yes. You're going to get a lot of no's. You just got to non-stop go. Like, I've chased people for 2 years just to get them onto my podcast. So you have to really want it. You have to be genuine, and you have to be strategic with who you go after. Your first 50 to 60 to 70, even 80 episodes, you go after second to third tiers from larger organizations, so you get people's attentions. And then once you reach the 100 mark, you basically proved yourself. That's when you start going after the larger podcast. But make sure you got a presentation. Make sure you got your numbers, because all their press, their PR people will be asking you these questions.
The fact that I haven't been on, the Business Wilderness podcast, I want to say that I'm offended, but I'm not surprised, because I'm just this little guy with Game Plan U, and who the hell knows. So I'm not offended.
No, man, you'll be on there. It's all about. We just actually restarted that now. Actually, the Business Wilderness. It's going to get interesting, and you'll definitely be on there. That's promise.
Oh, well, thank you. I just feel like I didn't want to beg, but let's talk about SportsFinda. Let's talk about what you see happening in the industry right now as we come out of this. What's happening with player likeness, licensing, all of those things happening. How does that fit into your business model? And where do you see where do you see yourself and your business positioned on the back end of this global epidemic?
Yeah, I think we fit right into people's recovery, basically sessions or periods. With the new revenue law that's basically been passed through in some states and hasn't, which is most likely going to happen throughout the whole country. This is an opportunity. This is the time in history where athletes can finally monetize on their hard work, their sweat, their grit. And that's what SportsFinda is about. We're about giving these athletes, these individuals, a platform to actually start to make some money from the hard work that they've put in all these years. We're going into times, I mean, now that so many businesses have closed, the economy is in strife, people are going to look for ways to make money. There's no better way to start making money than from stuff that you've already got at home, sitting in your garage, sitting in your locker, sitting in your bedroom, sitting in your basement. Get it out, chuck it on our platform, and if it's presented well, it's priced well, it will sell. So anyway, back to our athletes. The athletes now have an opportunity to get on the front foot, get involved with us. We're putting together an ebook on athlete branding, basically understanding audiences, merchandising, selling, so on, so on. So it takes the athlete from point zero to actually having merchandise and selling on our platform. And this is a real opportunity for people who could go without food for 24 hours or through minimal food for 24 hours because that's what they can afford. And we've heard these stories many times over. Some kids have to steal. Some kids have to, stay on one meal for like 24 to 30 hours, 36 hours because they really don't have anything. So this is an opportunity to get out of that cycle, to jump on a platform that's going to help you and nurture you and really take you forward.
So you learn not only from college athletes, but you look at some of these Olympic athletes that are out there, especially some of the smaller sports or the non-team sports, the individual sports that are out there. They have to find their own sponsors. They have to find their own voice out there, and sometimes they get kind of lost, right, because they aren't as high profile. But is this a platform that could benefit them, Olympic athletes trying to make it on a global scale?
Absolutely. I mean, that's what we are for. We're for the underdog who's worked hard his whole life, hasn't really had the support that he should have. That's our brand, really. I mean, that's what we stand for. We stand for helping those that need the help, the guidance, so the direction. So basically, that's who we are.
So talk about what's next for you. Talk about, you're just a serial entrepreneur. You're out there. You have multiple businesses going at once. Some people can't even handle one business. You have multiple businesses going at once. You got a podcast that you're soon to have me on. So the ratings will kind of drop right off the top. So, what advice do you give to those folks out there who are just like you? Your peers are out there trying to figure out what's next, staying positive. Are there anything that you have coming down the line? Any besides the podcast, do you have anything else out there that you're going to bring to market that could help?
In terms of the college sports space, absolutely. We're working on an ebook. We're working on a sports program, like a short course, that's going to basically guide your general athlete from zero to building their personal brand, to understanding their audiences, to evaluating audiences, to building networks, leveraging networks, and to ultimately creating and planning their own merchandise and selling it. That's really what we're going to be doing over the next few months, while people have a lot of time. The other thing is that I can say to everyone, I'm by no means the ultimate success story yet, but there's one thing that I can absolutely tell you is that, to me, the most important things in life is what you have basically for free. What God's given you is your health, your close ones, your family. For as long as you're healthy, for as long as your parents are alive, your family's alive, everyone's healthy around you. Believe me, we are more than blessed. We have food to eat. We have a roof over our heads. Really, I always look at the simple things in life. We now, during this time in history where you go down in the record books, we've been put into isolation. The simplest thing that all we used to take advantage of is our own freedom. Look at us now, how much we miss that, right? And that's what I'm saying. Like, everything else will come if you work hard enough, if you work smart enough, if you mix in the right circles, if you don't give up, if you're really honest with yourself and you don't feel sorry for yourself, if you really evaluate yourself and don't say, "Oh, how come he's got it? How come?" Don't worry about everybody else. Worry about yourself. Fix yourself, and the rest will happen.
Words of wisdom from Melbourne, Australia. I figured. So I appreciate you spending some of your evening with us on a Sunday, and it is Sunday there, right? Am I missing that one?
Sunday night, 10:30 p.m.
Yeah. So I appreciate your time, and your wisdom, and we wish you the best of luck with everything. How do people find you?
On LinkedIn, just Ahmad Elhawli, Ahmad Elhawli. Go to our website, sportsfinda.com, sportsfinda.com. If you want to get in touch with me personally, it's just ahmad@sportsfinder, sportsfinda.com.au. I'm very easily accessible. I won't ignore you if I see your email or if I see your messages. I won't ignore you. I'm pretty responsive. We're open to helping everyone.
Yeah, you are. You're all over. You seem to be in the circles right now, especially in the sports tech space. I see you everywhere, and you're connected. And I'm glad that we were able to do some work together as part of Game Plan U's next cohort group, and helping you take that next step and all that other stuff. So I'm happy to be part of this whole journey with you, and it's really an honor. So thank you again for your time, and best wishes. Stay healthy out there, and wash your hands and all that other good stuff.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate you having me on the show. Thank you.
Absolutely. That's Ahmad. This is Rob over here. This is Game Plan U today, Sunday edition. We'll see you later. Have a great week, everybody.